5, 4, 3.
Wait a minute, my stomach started making a lot of noise.
I got so into it.
I know, but right when you hit 2, I hit a 2.
Mine too awoke.
And welcome to the new listeners. Welcome to L.A. Meekley,
Yeah.
the history podcast.
Comedy history.
You got history in my comedy. So this is we're introducing a field trip episode right now with Tommy Gelinas from the Valley Relics Museum.
We've been wanting to do this for so long.
5 years?
5 years,
6
maybe?
years?
Yeah. I don't know if they reached out to us or if we reached out to him early on, but I know that we've had some like loose communication.
We've had brushes with him where he's kind of like on Instagram or something kind of said a thing or two.
Yeah.
And we said, hey, watch your tone, buddy. Tommy two-tone. No, thank you.
Who are you adding with that attitude, huh?
And we were connected to him through Maria from the San Fernando Valley Historical Society. So yeah, anyway, this is something we've been wanting to do for a long time. We never got to go to the original location because our timing just never worked out. But going to get a preview of this new event space museum-rific.
Yeah. Does that work? He's very active on social media, as you'll learn from the interview. I mean, I've been a big fan of his feeds and stuff like that because it has, I bought the Pioneer Chicken shirt because...
Which I didn't...
We'll get into.
I didn't realize that was his shirt because you were wearing it when we went to the museum and I didn't know that was his thing.
You called me inbred hick in front of everybody.
What is that, your uncle on your shirt? Get out of here. And then...
Snooze, you lose.
Early bird gets the worm. You're no bird. And he kept like pointing it out and complimenting you and I was like, well, people really like this shirt.
People other than him who made the shirt.
I think I even tried to point out, well, I have a bear on my shirt.
Talk to Bear.
Talk to the bear because the chicken's just a chicken.
He's made himself really well known, and I've been really excited to go see it, knowing that we're going to go for the field trip, and nothing prepared me. As much as I was so excited when we walked in there, the electric, just the glow from the neon signs and everything, and the hum of neon. And then seeing you get excited, I went into...
Yeah, well, because it is a Valley Museum, and I saw the sign, and it was a nachos sign. It was the sign from Nachos, which was my favorite Mexican restaurant that closed a few years ago.
Where was it at?
It was on Devonshire and Balboa, around there. And then a Chipotle came in, and it slowly drove up the prices and then drove them out of business. Yeah. But they had, not long after they closed, I saw, Tommy's getting the sign. Yeah. That's good. So that's a good sign.
It's a very good sign. He also I believe he got Tail of the Pup, which we covered in an episode before.
Did he?
I believe he did.
Well, because he was saying that he's already outgrowing that new space, I'm sure he has stuff.
Which is the hangar where they shot the end of Casablanca.
Allegedly.
Yeah, it's not the hangar, but it's the same place.
Area.
Yeah. I remember hearing about it and being very happy that he got it. And that's how I feel for anything that's closing down. I hope that he gets a piece of it.
Yeah.
It's in good hands with him.
It is in good hands because like we kind of get to in the episode, he's crowned himself the keeper of the valley.
Yeah.
He is in charge of the history of the valley.
And he
also knows everything about the valley.
Yeah.
Offhand.
I don't want to say single-handedly, but if his purpose is making the valley cool, he's doing a good job of it. Yeah. Between him and Paul Thomas Anderson making the valley very cool.
Who I'm sure he knows. He said he knew Quentin Tarantino, so he must know Paul Thomas Anderson. It's only natural.
Even that's close enough for me to get excited. I know somebody who knows those people. I'm hip. I party.
That must make me Samuel L. Jackson. And I'm one bad mommy farter. So the grand opening of the Valley Relics Museum is November 17th from 10 o'clock to 3 p.m. That's Saturday?
Saturday.
Yeah, it's coming. As you hear this from our lips to your ears. It's at 7900 Balboa Boulevard, hangar C3 and 4. The entrance is on Stag.
Yeah.
So it's just off Balboa Boulevard, and there's sort of a parking area.
I'm not sure how that's going to work with security gates on opening day, but it's probably going to be worked out by then.
Yeah, well, because the way we left, I think, is where people are going to be going in, and that's sort of a closed off area from the rest of the airport. Because going here was like, are we supposed to just be should we be walking up to the gate of a city airport?
Should I be on this keypad pressing every button I've seen, trying to figure out if someone's going to come get?
We got to put on a lot of lists for this interview. Yeah, and that was another thing. When we were there, he's like, the mayor of Calabasas is here.
It's so nonchalantly.
It was a real who's who of people that were there.
I don't know if we talked about in the episode, but I went to the restroom and I came back and there was somebody there.
Yeah, you went to the bathroom because one of the things they have is the sign from the Family Fun Arcade, which is an arcade I used to go to a lot. lot, and you went to the bathroom.
But before that happened, you're like, Family Fun Arcade, and you were like, and you were like telling me memories about where it was, and so I go to the bathroom.
You go to the bathroom, and while you were in the bathroom, Tommy's like, he says to this older guy, he's like, hey, come over here, and then he's like, sit down, and he says, Daniel, this is the guy who ran the Family Fun Arcade for 40 years.
And I wasn't there for that.
Yeah. And when you came back, we were taking a picture.
I left to the bathroom and came back, and you were in a different seat, and everyone was on one side of the table, and I was like, what happened? And you were just like,
Greg, stay in the bathroom. This is my moment.
Let's see who else come out when you're in the bathroom. Charlton Heston's ghost.
But yeah, it's just, I think for everybody, like the people just stopping by, wanting to see these memories of this place. It's a good place, and I highly recommend going there. That's the grand opening. Again, November 17th, 10 to 3, 7900 Balboa Boulevard.
Dreams, yeah.
Hangar the Horrible, C3 and 4. Let me say that again, just to be clear. 7900 Balboa Boulevard. I still can't say it. Hangar C3 and 4. Entrance on Stag, November 17th, 10 to 3. And then it'll be open. He says the hours for regular hours.
Yeah, you look into that.
Follow Valley Relics on Instagram, Valley Relics Museum, valleyrelics.org. You can go to their website, Twitter @Valley Relics. He's on Facebook. He posts, like he says, he's got crazy relics and resources of the valley that are good to see.
Yeah, please look into it. Visit if you can. Go on opening day. It would be really appreciated. It's going to be a good time. Hopefully you'll see us there if I get the day off.
Hey, if you get the day off, I'll pay your salary for the day. Boy, I just watched A Bronx Tale.
It shows.
I've got a big stogie sticking out of my shiny jacket pocket.
Open my car door for me.
It's the sign of a good woman. Do we want to say anything right now?
We could.
About
from recording this no.
We're recording this on the Friday after the shooting in Thousand Oaks happened.
We're talking on the day of the fires, the day after the mass shooting.
Yeah.
Another one.
I know. It's, because this one, like we had the San Bernardino one not that long ago, which was scary, but this is so close to home that it's like Thousand Oaks is almost, like it is our neighbor, and it's almost, I know it's not LA Meekley territory, but it is our neighbor, and we,
Yeah, I mean, like, I feel like I don't like being the ones of like, oh, well, now that it affects me, I care. It's definitely a problem, but it's frightening when it gets close to you. And I'm sure like everybody, it's getting closer and closer to you. But like now I know more and more people who are like, that's where I used to go, and I could have been there that night. And
I know. And I mean, it's not like Thousand Oaks is really a different culture than LA culture. No. So it's like these are we know people who live very close to there or a little past there that could easily have been there, and it's horrible. Yeah, and that's another really scary one where, I mean, obviously none of these are any warning at all. That's their thing. That's the thing. Yeah, you were telling me that he was posting on social media as it was happening, and I think that put an extra little thing in my brain of like that's something. Well, I mean, you were saying, because when we were talking about it before, you were worried about your brother being somewhere where that happened. I said, what about you? But like that's the thing. You have no control over this at all, even beyond it happening to you, which is, I guess, a degree of control because you're in the situation, but it could be someone you love or someone you know that's just in that situation. You can do nothing about it. And it's horrible. It's getting closer and closer. Again, not to make it about us. Yeah, but it's getting closer and closer to home. It's only horribly, it's only a matter of time until it's at home. And that's the thing too, it's not centralized. My brothers are in Vegas right now with my cousins, and I'm like, well, there was a shooting there too, and what if there's another one? I think I think one of the people who got killed survived the Las Vegas thing. It's ridiculous. There's it unstoppable. And I don't know. No one's doing anything. Targets. I know. No one's doing anything about it, and we have no idea. Yeah. We shouldn't even be talking about this. It's very not our territory. It's not our territory, but it's bothering us, and sometimes you just have to say something. Yeah. Anyway, we didn't mean to bring it down like that, but it just happened, and it's on our minds, and we wanted to say something about it. Thank you for giving us a couple minutes to do that. Yes. Yeah. Now let's plug us. No easy transition there. So, like we said, Tommy has a lot of followers for his museum. Yeah. So a lot of new people might be listening to us for the first time. Hi. Hello. Sorry we started this out with a joke about my stomach hurting. But, our episodes normally aren't like this. These are our field trip episodes where we interview people at different places in the city. We'll give you a rundown of what our episodes are normally like, because they could be off-putting at times.
Sometimes people don't know what they're listening to, and then when they figure it out, they don't like it.
Did you get
at all.
comedy in my history? Bronxdale, I'm doing a Bronx point at you.
Oh my God.
I'm gonna whack you.
You're not made. I can whack you.
Here's how it works. We'll pick a topic every month, and then a topic from LA history.
And it's very general.
Very
pick
general.
a general one, and then we split it up as specific as we want to split
Different stories.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And the way the episodes themselves work, they start out with a cold open comedy intro, which have nothing to do with the rest of the episode.
Barely.
So you might find it funny, you might not. Stick with it. They're only a few minutes. We're just compelled to do this.
Yeah.
Once you get past that.
And know that one of us is like, hey, we could not do this anymore. And the other one's like, no, we have to keep doing it. I'm like, well, I don't
You
think
decide
people...
which one.
Yeah, try to figure it out.
One of us is also wrong. Figure out which one.
Notoriously wrong about everything.
So once you get past that, then we start the show talking about something in the city we've done over the past month. We then move on to answering a listener question about us or the city or anything, and then we go on to the actual stories.
Yeah.
And if you want to skip straight to that, we have them timestamped on the descriptions of the episode. So that's how the show works. Just so you know, if you want to stick with us.
We hope that you like to hang around. Of the 10 of you, I hope 2 keep listening.
You know, hey, those are good odds.
Yeah, I know. That's 2 fans.
Again, how you can listen to us. We're on iTunes. Find us on the way. You can subscribe to us. You can leave us reviews on iTunes. 5 stars. We like
appreciate
that.
it.
It helps us get noticed by more people. Hopefully, this will be the Valley Spark that's starts the...
You almost have it.
Don't say Valley Fire. There's fires already creeping into
fires.
the valley.
Yeah.
We got plenty of those. Subscribe to us because you'll get these surprise episodes like this without having to check your feed and all that.
Right. We are on YouTube, thanks to Daniel uploading all our episodes. You can listen to us on YouTube. It's much easier that way if you don't like iTunes like me.
If you don't like your things always downloading incorrectly, you can go to YouTube. Yeah, we have all of our episodes and we have footage from our live shows also on there. Follow us on Twitter at LA Meekly, on Instagram,
LA_Meekly.
We post pictures around the city every day.
Facebook us is just searching for LA Meekly. We're there. We have a fan page or a group page, something. We have something great. People and you know what about that? People love it.
If there's one thing we know, 197 people love it. We're on Patreon if you want to support us financially. We have different levels. Right now we have a $5 level where we send out postcards to you every month.
Handwritten postcards by me and him.
Postal cards. We are keeping the postage system alive just from our Patreon, all 7 of them.
And when I say postcards, I mean it's post the date that we promised to send it to you. It's post that date.
It's post what you ever wanted. And then we're working on having some better merchandise to have higher levels than that. We could do bonus episodes for you, stuff like that. Anyway, look on Patreon and support us that way.
And Tumblr is our main page, lameekly.tumblr.com. We have pictures. It's an episode archive
of everything we've ever done.
And you can email us at la.meekly@gmail.com.
Yeah, if you have comments, suggestions, or if you want to be a subject of a field trip episode or know someone who should be, email us. Anything else?
I can do a lot of push-ups.
Oh, wait a minute. Anything else? Bronx Tale. I'm going to whack you.
Anything seltzer?
That's enough of us. Time to get to us.
Yeah.
Enjoy our field trip museum to the Valley. Field trip to the Valley Relics Museum.
Got it. You know what people like about us is that we say stuff in the same
sandwich. All right, I'll start with the first. These are 12 questions. Get ready. So, who are you and how long have you lived in LA?
My name is Tommy Gelinas. I'm the curator and founder of the Valley Relics Museum, born and raised here.
You're from the Valley?
Yeah.
What part?
Well, I always like to describe it as I was conceived in Studio City and popped out in Burbank.
It's a good drive.
Yeah. Right.
That's a 9-month drive right there.
The same night.
And so people go, oh, you're from Burbank. And I'm like, no. I was conceived in Studio City. I was popped out in Burbank. I was there for approximately 48 hours. And I've
never been back.
Never been back. I'm a Valley guy. And that's not the reason why I started the Valley Relics Museum. No, I'm just kidding.
What's your favorite part of the Valley?
That's really a hard question. First off, the Valley has taken a lot of hits verbally. I've probably have hung out, rode my bicycle, had a friend, a girlfriend, a best friend, shopped, or some type of going-ons in the Valley that, each part of the Valley has kind of a special place.
Yeah.
As at some parts of, the California state beaches and in Hollywood, Beverly Hills. I mean, you can get a Valley person, guy or girl, to Hollywood, to Beverly Hills, to a club, to a concert, to shop. But man, try getting someone from the other side of the hill to the Valley.
I know that.
I every time I read an LA Weekly, it just infuriates me, or any LA magazine.
Exactly. And if you look at an article, you search LA Weekly or Curbed LA, Valley Relics, it'll date back to about 2013. And it starts off with, yes, we're writing a story today on this, as you know it, the cesspool, strip mall.
As we all agree.
No history, type of thing. They even did one where yes, there's a museum coming to the Valley. Admin goes, maybe we should go tra-la-la into a strip mall in the Valley. So it always stuck, but then they actually write something decent, but they have to let everyone know that, hey, I want you to read our article, and I know you hate the Valley as much as we do. Yeah. And that's kind of part of the motivation behind, Valley Relics Museum is, most people that write about the Valley are not from the Valley, let alone LA. Yeah. And they're interns from Wisconsin. Now, I dated a girl from Wisconsin. You know what I mean? And I have nothing but really good things to say about girls from Wisconsin. But a lot of it, is usually East Coast, Midwest. They come out, they hear that, the Valley's doo-doo, and that somehow, their aunt lives in Reseda. And they somehow get off at, White Oak, and then drive down White Oak to Reseda and go, I hate this place. Yeah. But they don't get to
only houses.
Right. So, I grew up in a place called Sepulveda, California. And Sepulveda, California
no longer exists.
Yeah, no longer exists. And it was over by The Onion. And The Onion is right over by the Veterans Hospital. It's right off of near Superior and Aqueduct. So, right by the Plummer area, and it's shaped like an onion. Oh. And they did the original acid test there. Jimi Hendrix played there. It's an amazing...
Is that where's Devonshire Downs?
So Devonshire Downs is right off of Zelza and Devonshire. Right. And
makes sense.
Newport 69 happened there.
Yeah.
And Devonshire Downs was where they held the San Fernando Valley Fair. And the San Fernando Valley Fair, they did a lot of different type of events, like the Factory of Nightmares, where Alice Cooper made an appearance. Jimi Hendrix, Janis Joplin, Creedence, Jethro Tull played.
That's crazy.
I actually have photos of that, which some of you might have seen on the Facebook page. I know people got mad that I posted 30 photos at one time. I was asked nicely next time to put them into the new 10 folders. Yeah, but I really wanted more of the vibe to look on the page versus in a folder. So, and I do that once in a while. So I just gave them the option to either block me or, history's beautiful. And I think that when someone has that type of archive, that you should just either present something better or don't complain. But anyway, so the Valley in general, has a lot of history, and a lot of people don't know about that history. And then a lot of us, start to see now with Allison Martino, which is a good friend of mine, doing Vintage LA. And then you have April Leaf. She has Kids of the San Fernando Valley. And what we've done in Valley Relics is Valley Relics being one of the grandfathers of taking lost history, history that's unappreciated, unknown history of such a melting pot of pop culture such as the San Fernando Valley, and through social media over the years is promoting. And what it has done, it has taken a very sore subject like Panorama City, being the Beverly Hills of the Valley. And people go, what? Panorama City? Absolutely. So you had, back in the 50s, a gentleman that developed the Panorama City area. You had Phil on, which was the Master Po in the original David Carradine Kung Fu series, that opened a restaurant called Moongate. Then you had a Thrifty's drugstore with a diner in the back. And then you had the Broadway department store across the street. You had Robinson's across the street. You had Orbach's. So you had all of these top-tier department stores right in the middle of Panorama City. But of course, General Motors was a block away, which provided lots and lots of jobs. Then you had Lockheed down at the other end. So, so you had Roscoe and Van Nuys. And off of Van Nuys, you had General Motors. And then at the other end of Roscoe, you had Lockheed. So two huge corporations providing thousands of jobs in the Valley. That's why those streets are so wide, especially Roscoe, was to get commuters and employees to and from. Once, the decline of these corporations leaving the valley due to whatever reason we won't get into, because that's just basically riling the racists about why the valley is what it is. But that history, people don't know that. And when you just say Panorama City, like in a topic, 20 years ago, I don't know if you guys are familiar with LiveJournal.
A little bit, yeah.
So LiveJournal was one of the first forums for kids where they could rant and talk doo-doo about their parents. A lot of it was very like emo driven.
Yeah.
It was very nerd emo driven, and it was kind of like the beginning of like bands like Saves the Day and Save Ferris or whatever. It was very emo, but early on with that whole movement, I was posting about Valley history, and kids were like, they made a Camaro where my school is, or where was there an auto factory? And those kids would become fascinated with like, whoa, check out this photo. Van Nuys Drive-In, there's an elementary school there. So when you start posting this stuff, you're reaching out in a really healthy manner of like I said, forgotten history, and it's not that old. But through that social media came from LiveJournal. It was a great way to reach out and share something positive. Came MySpace. And then from MySpace, I was able to promote San Fernando Valley history there, then to Facebook. So people go, how do you have so many followers? Well, since I'm old and I've been around for a while, used to be able to add friends. Like at MySpace, you could add people. Next thing you could add, if you sat there all day long, you could add 100,000 friends. Well, Facebook was the same way. Then they started changing it up where, it went from like only 5,000 friends, and it went to a fan page and a group and a fan. So, but anyway, the fact is that there's many different areas of the valley that I find fascinating, that has a lot of rich history. So I see things, not to separate myself or make myself different from, but I view the areas of the valley different than a lot of other people, because I love the history of the valley, and I have so many photos and maps and books and history books. So I kind of drive down the street and I see everything in black and white, That's what this used to be, and that's what that used to be. So just to answer the question, I like to rant a lot, but
please do.
I really love the valley, and it's not the same as it used to be, and it's very hard for newcomers or people that aren't from here to see the rich history. And that's Valley Relics, Valley Relics Museum, that it's an attempt to try to cherish what we had and preserve what's left and tell that story, but it's got to start with some type of beginning. And so I started with postcards, and then annuals, and then a couple of history books, and then I start to read and I go, oh, there was a town of Owensmouth. Where did that go? Oh, a town of Lancashire. Isn't that a street? No, there's a town of Lancashire.
And it just gets swallowed up into bigger areas? Is that what happens?
Right. And then there was like the town of Girard, which is now Woodland Hills. So basically, Spaniards come over and they look down, where Sepulveda passes, coming through the 405, the Golden S, and they look down, and one Spaniard says to another Spaniard, look what we have found, look what we have discovered. And the guy goes, no, look, there's some Native American Indians down there. And they're like, yeah, but the Native Indians, they don't count. They never staked their claim. We discovered it.
Oh, look, workers.
I've got a good name for that area.
Right.
Girard.
Yeah. We'll take their stuff and make some names up for them. But the truth of the matter is that even that history is really amazing in the valley. But that's kind of like the main thing, is like searching the internet many years ago, not being able to find anything really on the valley, any pop culture stuff, such as BMX started in the valley, very humble beginnings with the BMX tracks, such as the Teen Center over by Birmingham, over by Devonshire Downs was the Downs track, in Sylmar, Yarnell. These are the earliest BMX tracks based on the organized sport of BMX, which is now an Olympic sport. Now, to go a step farther, redline bicycles were designed and made in Northridge than Chatsworth. And we're talking about the high-end old school redline that kids raced on. Mongoose, the owner lived in Simi Valley, but he manufactured all the Moto Mags and all the Mongooses in Chatsworth. Same as Champion, Dan Gurney, Gary Littlejohn, Robinson. I can go on and on. So all those BMX bikes, all the granddaddies of BMX were all manufactured. They're a Southern California bike, but with the humble beginnings, the majority of it being in the valley, and then, of course, Southern California. So when you look around the museum and you see all these...
a bunch of...
we had questions. I feel like we have questions about everything we walk up to.
what's this?
So there's really, it's a Southern California pop culture.
Yeah.
And a lot of that experimentation and ideas and stuff happened in the Valley, believe it or not.
It's got to be the nuclear fallout.
It has to be that, and it has to be the fact that the water starts here.
Yeah. Well, that's a good point, considering, people go, where are you from? Like, I'm in New York. And I go, well, you've heard of Southern California, right? And they go, yeah. And I go, in Southern California, there's like Los Angeles, and then like Los Angeles County, right? And they're like, yeah. And then they're like, you've heard of like Northridge? You mean like in the Northridge earthquake? And I go, exactly.
I live in the fault line.
Right. And then I'm like, you heard of Anson, right? They're like, yeah, Chatsworth, right? And I'm like, okay, so Southern California, enter Los Angeles County, enter San Fernando Valley, and then people from Los Angeles. It's like the water is in the valley. Mulholland brought the water to the valley.
Owen's Mouth.
Okay, and where's the mission?
In the valley.
It's in the valley.
It was one of the first missions, right?
Right.
I always feel weird, like if I have to put what city I live in, or born in, Woodland Hills or Granada Hills or whatever, and I always feel weird about, like, people aren't going to know I'm from Los Angeles if I write Granada Hills as my address.
Right.
And they don't.
And no one never mails you anything. Yeah.
Right. Did someone call a cab?
We forgot to mention we're sitting in an airport right
We
now,
are
which is
sitting
why
at
you're
the
here.
airport.
That'll lead to our second question, which is, where are we, and what was your previous location? We'll talk about that as well.
Yeah, the previous location, first location was in Chatsworth.
With the mongooses.
Yeah, right. That's exactly why I was there.
Did you all know that?
At the time, someone said something like, if you open a museum, it needs to be somewhere where someone feels safe. And when I heard that, I'm like, yeah, we don't want to put it in that sore subject of Panorama City because people won't go. Yeah. And considering it's a museum, you kind of think of museum a lot of times, and you think of old people. And I don't mean that in a derogatory, but nowadays, like with the Ice Cream Museum, the Museum of Death, you have more of a millennial driven.
Like both
as
those things,
long as you can take a selfie, you are now considered a museum.
Yeah.
I just wanted to be in a safe place, and the rent was cheap.
Yeah, that's fair.
And I was able to get in for a year, and I stayed there 5 years. I think in that Curbed LA article, someone goes, look, a museum, finally a museum for white people in the Valley, in a strip mall yet, probably won't be around longer than 2 years. So I made sure I was around for 5 just to get over that resentment. See, it was longer than 2. I win. But that's all. It wasn't really any rhyme or reason. I really love the fact that when you come over the 118 and you get to see, where the cowboy western movies were made, Stony Point and all the rock formations, a beautiful area.
Yeah.
But
all
Van
the
Nuys,
movies were made.
yeah, lots of all kinds, good and bad, from The Lone Ranger to Debbie Does Detox.
Was that an episode of The Lone Ranger?
Yeah. It served its purpose, but Van Nuys, we're actually in Lake Balboa. Not that they're going to ever call it Lake Balboa Airport, but it's technically Lake Balboa, but it's central. It's right in the middle. So if you live anywhere in the valley, we're basically in the center of our own universe.
No excuse.
Yeah.
Is this, because whenever I would drive by on Balboa with my dad, he would always say they filmed the last scene from Casablanca there, and I always thought he meant literally in this, like, right off Balboa. Are we sitting right where it happened?
Yeah, you actually filmed quite a few movies here on this property. It's historical property. I mean, the airport's been around since the 20s, and it used to be called the Metropolitan Airport, and at some point, the landing strip went the opposite way, how it goes from, like, let's say, north to south, south to north. It used to go from east to west. Somewhere in the 30s, I think they changed it due to Burbank.
Well, that's
right. Yeah, you fly right into
Right, exactly. It was probably a better idea to do it that way. It's one of, Van Nuys is, we're on historical property. We're in 2 beautiful brand new airplane hangars. Yeah. It's a unique space. Yes. We have a lot of as you can see, things are really large here. Yeah. So I needed the warehouse, and it's a great place.
Mm-hmm. You outgrew the other one.
Yeah. I'm already pretty much outgrown this one, but you'll
be moving to Burbank Airport.
Maybe someone that's hiding a bunch of property wants to just donate us a couple of acres, build a nice build a home for us, and we'll call it the whatever museum. Whoever's going to donate it, we'll
Pepsi
just make it
Budweiser,
John Wright's Valley Relics Museum or whatever.
So what do you do here? You are everything.
Honestly, when I started posting on social media, I had a small collection of postcards, matchbooks, ashtrays, just some really random cool stuff that I was kind of collecting at a personal level. Yeah. But as the history of the Valley unfolded with all these these towns that were here that are gone, and discovering how many cool celebrities lived here. Marilyn Monroe went to Van Nuys High School.
Yeah.
She lived in Van Nuys. Robert Redford, John Elway from Granada Hills, the Warner Brothers Ranch.
Joan Jett.
Yeah, Joan Jett. Harpo Marx, the Marx Brothers, Laurel and Hardy. I mean, I can go on. Bob Hope. Ben Crosby, Bing Crosby. Matter of fact, it's funny, I did a tour here with some sixth graders, and I was sharing how the history is getting lost, and a lot of the kids, I was saying that a lot of kids aren't going to know about the Valley history.
Yeah.
And the sixth grader goes, well, my dad's born and raised here, and so am I, and I know a lot about Valley history. And he's like in the sixth grade, and I go, yeah? And he goes, yeah. He goes, ask me something. And I go, all right. Little smart aleck kid. Yeah. I go, who's Bob Hope? And he goes, I know that question. Right? And I go, okay, well, tell the class. There's like 5 teachers here and like 30 kids. He goes, it's an airport in Burbank.
Not wrong.
He's not wrong.
Not
they're
anymore,
changing
though.
that. Yeah, they're changing that.
Who's Hollywood Airport?
Yeah, exactly. So
This sounds like the beginning of Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
exactly.
You have
But,
Bob Hope's claw, and you're going to...
Yeah. So, for me, just, being born and raised here, I own a t-shirt printing company. It's quite large. I was working 16 hours a day, spending most of my days and hours raising a family, working hard, building a business in the Valley that I needed. I don't smoke cigarettes, so I needed a cigarette.
Right.
You
Part
smoke
of that
museums.
was hopping on the internet on my breaks,
Yeah.
or while I was working the second, third shift at my business,
Yeah.
I would start looking for Valley history on the internet.
Just
And I couldn't find
randomly?
it. Yeah. But you type in something to LA or Hollywood.
Any little part of LA, you can find a book
Right.
on it. Yeah.
And so I really believe that the Valley Relics Museum, believe it or not, it was the Valley Relics Online Museum and Vault. And back in, almost 20 years ago, I had this little site called the Valley Relics Museum, and it had postcards on it, about 300 postcards, and a bunch of little ashtrays and relics, and that's all it was, and never intended on opening a museum.
Yeah.
But I started reading and studying, not to be a historian, but out of fascination of
Yeah.
like, wow, the layers of our history is massive. Like, I had no idea that BMX started here, even though I used to remember seeing the bikes saying Chatsworth on them.
Coincidence.
I didn't realize that Marilyn Monroe went to Van Nuys, let alone Robert Redford. I didn't know that Mr. Hertz actually lived in West Hills and had his ranch there and raised thoroughbred horses. So what we know today as Hertz Rent-A-Car, the whole concept started on the East Coast, but his fame and success was right here locally.
Rent a horse. It was.
It just goes on and on. If anyone likes vinyl, as in records, the amount of music that was produced here, made here, the venues that were here, such as the Palomino Club, where Linda Ronstadt got her start, and people like Buck Owens and Johnny Cash make an appearance. Then you have the audio components for audiophiles. Marantz was made here, Superscope, Fisher, Infinity was made and designed here, JBL, I can go on and on. So you got BMX, you got the best of audio equipment being made right here. Then you have BMX here, and then you have like E.T. being filmed here, Bad News Bears, Karate Kid.
Is that the jersey? One of the jerseys?
Those
over
are
there?
those are from the movie. So
cool.
I was getting tingly in front of it. I'm like, oh God,
that's the real deal.
It's so great.
So the kid that played Toby, David Stramoff, his mom made a deal back in the mid to late 70s when they filmed that. When they were done filming, like that Tommy Martindale sign was. They filmed it in Mason Park, and
we went there one night.
and those were actually the props from the movie that was. So you're seeing all original stuff
so
here. There's
cool.
nothing Fugazi here, except no imitations. There's probably one bike here that's a reproduction that was donated, and you wouldn't know the difference. But everything here, it's the real deal. Every sign. Every little thing that you see here has an attachment to Southern California pop culture. And the whole thing with the Valley Relics, it's a way of people going, man, dude, I love what you're doing, man. Like, you're really supporting the Valley and the Valley history. And I leave it alone. But what I'm really getting to is that it's Southern California pop culture, because it started here. Think about this. Lockheed and Boeing making some of the best warplanes that defended the United States against the enemy. Satellite engines. Do you think that is just strictly local history?
No.
Do you think 62 million Chevrolets is at just a local level?
They all stayed in the city.
I'll tell you what, our local history has a global outreach.
We agree.
Okay, so you talked about this a little bit already, but let's just clarify a little bit more. What's this place's role in the city? LA and also the Valley.
Well, I've just kind of appointed myself as someone that cares about our local history. And there is a handful of people that do, but you would never know that. Like, there's actually like the Owens Mouth Historical Society, which is a small museum.
Tarzana has a little one too, don't they?
Yeah, they do. Exactly. Right? I think so. And then you have the Homestead, the Chatsworth Museum. There's a few little entities, but they don't really want to share their locations with other museums. And I think because they feel that it's our history, but one's focusing on the Santa Monica Mountains. They're friends of mine. They do a great job. They don't really want to post too much on social media because they want people to come there and see it, not understanding that like you have to entice people. They think very, and I don't mean this in any wrong way, but very close-minded. Like, well, it's our history and we've been here the longest, so when you come up with ideas and concepts that have worked for the Valley Relics Museum by bringing thousands of people to a venue, they're like, but that's for young people. And I'm all, but I thought you wanted young people. So I've just kind of taken initiative and created the Valley Relics Museum, which is a 501c3. It's a nonprofit, going back to cherishing what we had and preserving what's left. And we've been able to preserve quite a bit of local history. Basically, I encourage the community and help change their attitude from people that moved to New York or people that have moved to Poland. I've had people call me and shoot me an email and going, who are you? But I really, really hated the Valley. I left in 1980. It became a crap hole.
So they went to Poland?
And I'm never coming back. But, seeing your blog or seeing your website or being on Facebook, it makes me really appreciate me growing up there, and I wouldn't change it for anything in the world. And it's kind of giving me a different attitude. And that's been really the great success behind Valley Relics Museum is that I read something a long time ago that it's not the size of a museum, it's the subject. And that's why a lot of small museums do really well. There was one instance where a guy that had a lot of money somewhere up north or in the Midwest, I decided to collect really extremely large plowing equipment, and from the 1800s and 1700s and early 1900s, and somehow bought 20 acres and built a $1 million metal barn and put all these all these plows, right? And made this really great, beautiful grounds, but no one showed up.
I can't imagine.
There was just no interest. So here's a guy with money, the property, not, it was a little bit off the beating path, which makes great for museum goers because we like to be adventurous, but there was really no interest. So I always kept that in mind, that it's more of the subject. And if the subject's interesting, which I believe pop culture is, because we can all talk about it. You might go, oh, I heard about it. I heard my dad talking about that. But there could still be a conversation.
That's how I'm wearing the Pioneer Chicken shirt right now, because I grew up in Echo Park by the Pioneer Chicken down there. And this is my most popular shirt. Like, everywhere I go, I get stopped by somebody. Like, there was a Pioneer Chicken where I grew up, and it's just
how
a conversation.
How do you know about that? Are they still around?
Yeah, and they always ask stuff like that. And it's such a good conversation starter.
Well, that's what we were saying. It's really cool to see, like, the old historic photos and stuff like that, but then coming in this room, and, like, for me, seeing the Nacho sign is great, and the Family Fun Arcade, and just these things are so exciting to see here.
Well, it's even really interesting is when someone sees the Palomino sign, that went up in like 1949. Well, it opened in 49. The sign probably went up in the early 50s. And I leave things as I rescue them. Though a lot of this stuff has been gone for, Family Fun a little bit more recently, but that sign's over 40 years old. It opened up 40 years ago. So to have the original sign, Drexler, Delicatessen, the kosher meats, that's from 58. And she was, Miss Drexler opened up her deli in the late 50s. She was a Holocaust survivor. So here you have a person that survived the Holocaust and a woman, and you had Cantors, the Fairfax district, you had all these Jewish families on the other side of the hill, and yet she had the balls to open up a delicatessen. A, she's Jewish. B, she's a woman. And then C, where a lot of the Jews were going was to the Fairfax district. And for her to take that risk and make that her home and become so successful has made that sign a piece of Jewish history in the Valley, and has a huge historical significance to the Jewish community. I know this because the Jewish Historical Society told me so. But those are all important aspects for, like I said, she took a big risk being, women in business in the 50s, any woman, and then being Jewish and then being a Holocaust survivor. It's some huge stuff.
Yeah.
So, all these things are important, but to answer your question, it was just, my connection was get the support from the community. I've had calls from the city go, why don't you ever reach out to us for help? And I'm like,
busy.
Right.
So how do you, where do you get these things? Because I remember when Nachos closed.
So I've spent so many years restoring and collecting and gathering, finding the stuff in backyards, abandoned, that over the years that I've built a reputation. The owners were so harassed by the community. That's going to Valley Relics Museum, right? That's going to Valley Relics Museum, right? That's going to Valley Relics Museum, right? The guy goes, hey, dude, I don't know who you are, but can you come get this sign? Because they won't leave me alone. Tiffany Theater, I was talking with Allison Martin. She's like, oh my God, Tiffany Theater, they're tearing it down. I'm going, well, let me rescue it. She goes, what? And I go, I can rescue that. She goes, really? And I go, yeah. She's like, let me be there. Let me film it. I'm like, all right. So we went down there. The guy basically threw us off the property, said he'd break my neck.
Cool. Okay.
And then I went over to the city and said, hey, can I get a permit to remove the Tiffany Theater? They're like, you would do that? I go, yeah, on my dime. They're like, here's a permit, free, no charge. Go get it. Went back to the site. And the guy wanted to kill me because he thought I was going to interfere. He goes, you got 24 hours to remove the sign. All right. So it's what we do. We're out there keeping an eye on not just Valley.
Why wouldn't he want you to have it, though?
People don't care because they feel that you're going to technically, I could have said that's Indian burial grounds. I could have said that's historical value. A lot of people are trying to save buildings now. I could have put a wrench in $1 billion project.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I see. Yeah.
They don't care.
Yeah.
They don't care. So, a lot. Yeah. So from yard sales to talking to business owners to going to abandoned businesses and getting hold of property owners through websites such as Property Shark and other ways of finding out where people live. I knock on doors and go, hi, I'm Tommy from Valley Relics. They're like, who? They're like, don't you own the sign on Lancashire, that building? They're like, how did you get my information? And I'm like, oh, I just want to save the sign. I'll give you a tax write-off. Oh, in that case, come on in. True stories.
You're doing a great job.
Yeah. So I love that this all started. You just liked collecting things, and it grew and grew into this is the perfect way to start.
Grow into grow legs, like it's a caterpillar.
Yeah. So our next question here: what's the most important thing here, in your opinion?
All of it. All of it.
All as a collection.
Well, it's kind of like going, okay, guys, we took a trip to California. We got to get, back up to Utah. We all drove here. We have very little money. But if we were to lose one thing on the car that we have to throw out, would it be the steering wheel, the front tire, or the motor? Pick one. I think they're all important.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So when people say that, each thing has a story. Each thing was a struggle to get. There's the things that I thought were going to be hard to get were easy, and the things that I thought were going to be easy were hard.
Yeah.
A lot of this stuff has, taken a lot of time and money to restore it. Like sometimes people donate the Tiffany Theater sign, but I had to pay the crane guy.
No.
And then after I pay the crane guy, then I have to, I get one volunteer, but I need 2 additional people that don't want to show up unless they get paid. Right. Then I need to transport it, and then I need to get it and store it somewhere. Then we have it. Now it's been ripped off a building, and its electronics are left behind because it's impossible to take with you. Yeah. So now you got to restore it and get it lit back up again.
And you got to call the crane guy to put it back up.
That's right. And, people like free stuff, but there's a whole thing to... people don't realize the amount of money, but it's very cold. We don't have California has a very young history, but based on, California and the Valley, it's important to try and save this stuff and let it tell a story. Yeah. And I think it's worth saving, and I think over the years the community has seen that, look, we need some of our culture back, and we need to tell that story.
It's good you stopped the bleeding of all that.
Yeah. Right, and making a name for ourselves, and making the Valley cool. Now they're making, and I really feel like 20 years ago when I kept pushing and pushing, and all of a sudden, before the only thing you could find on the Valley, even someone making an 818 shirt was not even non-existent, that putting a little pride back into our history.
Yeah. Pride.
And,
that's the word.
And all of a sudden now there's, kids from the Valley and people that used to live in the Valley, and there's 1,000 blogs and Facebook pages and groups and things talking about the Valley. But I'll tell you, it wasn't that way when I started, and I feel like I was one of the very few that really pushed to kind of make it a conversation piece again, to make it where, the Valley, it's not what it used to be, but it used to be cool. I love the Valley. I'm proud to be have my t-shirt business in the Valley, employ 100 people in the Valley, to have a museum where thousands of people have come at the last location, paying my taxes here, shopping here, buying here. And, they were slowly healing. There's a lot of cool stuff going up, such as like the NoHo Arts District. They made some nightlife there. They got theaters there. They got acting classes, dance studios. It's a lot better than it was 20 years ago with just run by homeless people. Nothing against homeless people. I mean, I was homeless for a while until I started the museum and started making millions of dollars by taking everyone's money. No.
Selling Tiffany signs.
No money in museum. That is kind of a lose-lose. If you can break even doing a museum at any level, you're golden.
Great. That's good to know.
Speaking of break, has anything broken on like bringing something over?
Jinxing this hard.
Everything's gonna.
You know what? We're pretty good about moving stuff. Only one incident where a guy came to the museum probably 6 months ago with his girlfriend and kind of showing off. He was on a date, probably a little drunk, reached over the rope and tried to grab the cigar out of Manny Moe and Jack's mouth. The cigar smoker of the three. And he tried to pull the cigar out, and it's actually from the 60s, and it's fiberglass, and it's a very rare, extremely rare piece. So he tried to pull it out to put it in his mouth, and then he tried to pull on it, and I think he tripped and he broke it off.
God.
The next day, I didn't know it was broken on Saturday towards the end of the day, but when I came in the following Saturday, I reviewed the camera, and I remember who the guy was. He was kind of loud and trying to show off to his girlfriend. So he kind of leaned over, and then it broke out of his hand because he lost his balance. He threw it on the ground and continued to walk around like nothing happened. But that's probably my brother-in-law. He kicked the neon once by accident. Thank God we do neon in-house. But really, not any, knock on neon, but not too many.
Don't do that.
Please don't do that.
So you repair neon here?
Well,
just in case?
Well, our board, the guy that hangs the signs is part of our group.
This is similar to the last question, so you might have the same answer. What's your favorite thing here?
I think that after collecting some ashtrays and some yearbooks and some postcards, the White Horse Inn was a destination for me as a kid. Living down the street, we'd ride our bikes there. So we knew okay, we're going to get up Saturday morning and we're going to hit our first stop, which would be the White Horse Inn. And next door to the White Horse Inn was Wagon Wheel Liquor. They actually called it Wagon Wheel Liquors. That's what they called it even way back then. Wagon Wheel Liquors. That was probably the very first big object I ever got signed.
Yeah.
And I used
it's
to
right here.
Yeah, and I thought when I drove by, people don't realize, even with that nachos, when you drive by, oh, what a cute sign. I'd love to put that in my bedroom. And
I had no idea how big.
Right.
When
The Tiffany Theater, that actually spanned a whole city block. The letters were stretched probably 8 feet spacing in between them with neon around it. So I've condensed it into 60 feet. But that thing, was huge. So the White Horse Inn was probably the first thing where I got up on a ladder and I got up and I go, oh my God, this thing is huge. So I needed a crane. I got the permission type
gotta
thing.
Pay the crane guy.
And that was the first big score. So that's kind of the first thing that really kind of set me to going, I can do this. You know what I mean? I can do this. I can save things, not just ashtrays that come from some guy in North Carolina via eBay. That has a big special place in my heart. The Palomino too, because it was so iconic, and then the BMX bike, and then I go on and on. but probably the White Horse Inn and the Palomino, of course. There's just so many things. They all have a story, like I was saying.
Where was the White Horse Inn at? Just real quick.
It was right off of Roscoe and White Oak. It opened up in 1958. It was a high-end restaurant back in the 50s. The Valley was still very rural, believe it or not. The sign was very high up, so it lit up. You didn't have a lot of McMansions blocking its view. Still a lot of ranch property. So you did have a few places along Ventura Boulevard, but as far as being in the center of the Valley, that was a place to get lobster and steak and maintain.
What better place than the center of the Valley?
Right, and a lot of famous people went there. It opened, like I said, around 57, 58. It closed right around 1997. Sometimes in life, things have a good reputation, and then when it changes hands, like certain restaurants and stores, you're like, oh, I used to love that place, but someone bought it and the food's terrible. I can tell you, for the 17 years, 18, 19, 20 years on social media, not one person has ever talked bad about the White Horse Inn. You can't catch it. Now, Valley Ranch opened up in the 70s, and it was a Valley favorite, Valley Ranch Barbecue, and for like 15 years, like that was the bomb.
Yeah.
But then they sold it to somebody, and within a year or two, all you like on Facebook, I love that place, I love that place, but I moved out of the Valley in '86. I love that place. Then you hit 30 of these. Used to be good till the new owners ruined it. Then the food was horrible and it was hot and it just sucked. And there's like a whole rant about how terrible it was. But my experience was always good there. But the White Horse Inn, I got to tell you something. You're just how often when the Brown Derby is talked about, do you hear someone go, the Brown Derby food was horrible? Never, right? You never hear someone go, that was the worst place in the that was the worst place in LA. It just maintains this like integrity long after it's gone. Yeah. And so that's how the White Horse Inn is. So that's probably got the most significance.
Okay. What would you say LA would be like without this place, or the Valley in particular?
100%. The Valley is
an elephant just walked in.
Yeah. Actually, that's Bob Ream blowing his nose. I knew he was going to somehow try to ruin the interview.
Sabotage, I guess.
The Valley was pretty much, I think, at one point, number 2 in the nation in manufacturing, and especially in aerospace industry in the world. The amount of revenue to this day created by the Valley goes to LA. Mm-hmm. Then some of it's supposed to come back, which a lot of times it doesn't. The reason why the Valley has tried to separate itself from LA many times and it won't happen, it's not because, as you know, they don't like us. Of course they don't like us, but they don't want to lose their revenue. Yeah. And I believe they said that if the Valley was to separate itself from LA, we would be like the third
I heard
largest city in the nation. Yeah. It's that big. But the amount of revenue that we create, for California, for Los Angeles County is huge, and they don't want to lose that. Yeah. Now a lot of the community, like our council members and neighborhood councils, are really fighting to get some of that money back where it belongs, because it goes to them. It's like anything. It's a partnership. We create the revenue. We have to pay those dues, fees, taxes, and all that stuff. It gets divvied up, and then a percentage comes back to us, and that's how and a lot of it we never see again. Like it's allotted for the Valley, for example, like water storage for the rain. Mm. That money was allotted years ago, and that never happened. We have people out there finally fighting, but you have Warner Center, Woodland Hills, Porter Ranch, Granada Hills, very beautiful communities, Encino, Tarzana, Studio City, and a lot of the stuff in the middle suffers. But now what's happening, like with Valley Village, people who are moving north of the boulevard and making beautiful $1 million homes, the smaller homes into their $1 million beautiful homes. They're not always, they're taking historical homes. So the Valley's slowly healing, and I really believe that. And
this place it's like almost like the rallying point of like this whole area matters, and this is kind of a temple to that.
Well, I mean, man, you see how many different movies have been made here, and now movies on the Valley, and Valley Girl, and this and that, and now a lot of regular movies that are being filmed. I saw something on, I think, Netflix, and it has to do with card reading, and it was all made about, I forget, it was a short-lived series, but it was like a husband and wife, and he reads tarot cards, and she's also like a gypsy, and they got,
I remember that.
It was really good, but it was all filmed in the Valley. It was like great. And then Tarantino just did his deal, and that's all about the Valley.
Yeah, I kept seeing every weekend, like this part of Burbank is all turned back to the 70s.
This is what happened was, so I'm friends with Tarantino, and one day he came to the museum and goes, I really love this place. And I told him all my experience and growing up in the Valley and all about all these places, and he stole what was out of my brain and made a movie out of it. Kidding.
Now we're going to sue Quentin Tarantino.
You know what I told him?
That's a baby elephant just walked in.
Okay, so what's the strangest thing that's ever happened here or the last location?
Literally at the last location, we have a mannequin. The mannequin is pretty well built, and it had a uniform on from a military school that was in Woodland Hills. I put the mannequin together myself, and people walked by it, but I got an alert because we have lots of cameras and security bells and whistles, and exactly 3:33 in the morning, the mannequin completely just... Okay, there's no train tracks by there, no heavy trucks, and it's when you have a cement foundation and you hear the airplanes landing and everything, you don't feel anything shake here at all. You don't feel anything shake. So it's not like living in a house that has wood floorboards and carpet. By the railroad tracks, and you kind of feel a little bit of this going on, a little tremor. So very stable ground, and I've literally put the mannequin back up and tried pushing over. It's impossible. I mean, if you drop kicked it, but just to randomly fall in the middle of the night at 3:33 in the morning a.m., it just fell over. It woke me up because it alerted me that there's movement. The alarm company called and said there's movement in the lobby, and I rewind it, and the mechanic. Well, he's a mechanic. The mechanical mannequin, but the mannequin literally just slowly, and then falls forward. And I posted it on Facebook, and you can see it.
I want to watch everything about this video. A mannequin that falls over at 3:33 in the morning. Everything about it is scary.
Or something like that. Yes. Yeah. It was late at night. Nothing else fell over. There was no earthquakes, and nothing else fell over. So it was pretty scary. That was kind of weird. And then we've had a couple of poltergeist type people come here and do their whole
poltergeist.
Yeah.
They're reading the room.
Yeah. They just say there's definitely a lot. I mean, you got to. Think of all the rare documents, the old pocket watches, tools, wrenches, cars, bikes. Some of this stuff is 100 years old, 200 years old. And to think that there's no type of spiritual residue or energy left in it. I mean, how many people walk through the doors of just that Pioneer chicken alone?
How many chickens suffered for that sign?
That's good. That's a good point.
What is that bell, by the way? There's an old-looking bell over here.
So there was 36 of them at the promenade, which they refer to them as the Robinson bells. And the Robinson's bells were actually designed from the Liberty Bell. The gentleman went to the actual Liberty Bell, measured it, and basically photographed it, and he reproduced them. And they went up in the Robinson locations in Newport, Thousand Oaks, the promenade on Topanga near Irwin, which was the promenade that's still there, that's empty, and one other location, and they were all built by Bullocks Wilshire. And they went up in the 70s, but they were actually, believe it or not, made by a Valley guy in Northridge.
The original Liberty Bell was made by the Valley guy also.
And I met the guy. I thought it was pretty cool.
Pretty neat.
So what's this place's best kept secret?
Me.
You're not supposed to be on the record right now.
Right. Probably my wife and my son. Without them, I couldn't, they allow me to navigate. Right. And like my son's in there, he's working on helping with the sign. He's the one that helps with the website and booking of the locations and getting back to people. And he's able to listen. And it's like we all have ideas, and it's nice to be able to find someone like, hey, I want to do this design, and sit down with someone that really, not like, okay, I'm not getting what I want out of this guy. It kind of looks like what I want. Yeah. But it's not. So he's really good about getting me what I need, and then my wife being able in the background to be able to handle the financials. Like I can generate the money, but to be able to actually disperse it properly and making sure things stay balanced, raise my kids while I'm out rescuing a sign. There's so much, like the Nudie car, the Nudie Mobile. It's a $400,000 car. There's a lot of people know it's here. A lot of people don't know it's here. It's a $400,000 car, one of his earliest works.
It's beautiful.
It protects itself with all the guns that
There's just some little bits of amazing pieces, like My Brother's Barbecue, that big cow up there. It's signed by Kevin McGuire and family, but that opened in '58. It's part of Woodland Hills history.
It's a beautiful cow.
There's so much. I mean, you get to see a sneak peek, but we have a lot of really cool stuff, and then you're going to go, oh, I had no idea. So when you see like how Encino was built, it talks about William H. Hayes was a gentleman that back in the 20s was selling real estate, and he worked for a gentleman, and he decided that he wanted to start buying real estate and flipping it. So he broke away and started, buying property. Was still a real estate agent, but he bought a place over in Hollywood, built it for him and his wife because he was doing well in the real estate business in the 20s, and realized that his little mansion was on a big piece of property was a little too hot and wanted to move a little bit closer towards Santa Monica. So he sold the home, and a lady bought it, and she called it the Garden of Allah. And the Garden of Allah was built by William H. Hayes. Now, William H. Hayes was one of the first developers that developed Encino and the track homes in Encino. They even named a street after him, Havenhurst. That's why it's named or spelt funny, but it's Hayes. So not Haynes, but like William H. Hayes. So it's Havenhurst. And the reason why it's spelt that way, because it was kind of named after William H. Hayes. A lot of his track homes in the city of Encino, I have his ledgers, his documents, pictures of the mansions that he built. I think those things are really important. I have ledgers from the Prince family that actually helped develop the town of Lancashire in the 1800s, built the first sidewalk, the first brick and mortar building there. I have their ledgers, their diaries. I mean, stuff that dates way far back.
Did you go looking for that stuff, or did people bring that to you?
I look for it.
Yeah.
So basically, I'm the guy that has pulled all this together, and then after doing that for about 15 years, someone calls me and says, "Hey, Nacho's sign, we want you to have it."
Yeah.
With Ralph, he was hiding from me. He knew I wanted the sign, and he wanted to sell it, but I wanted it.
Yeah.
So I gave him a little bit of money for the sign. Then he donated. This is what's funny with Ralph. He pretty much donated the sign. He gave it to me for a few $100.
Yeah.
He goes, "I just need the money, and I know you're a museum, and I felt bad charging." I go, "I don't want to go to Las Vegas."
Yeah.
He goes, "I'll tell you what, buy the sign." And I did. And then he goes, "But then I'll bring you like $30,000 worth of pinball machines." I'm like, "Sure, $500 for a sign, bring 30 grand with it."
We ran out of room on the original recorder. We're going to finish it up on the iPhone. So
When's the best time to come here when you reopen?
Our grand opening is November 17th, 2018, from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. You can go to www.valleyrelicsmuseum.org for times throughout the week.
where should you park to come here?
So we're located at 7900 Balboa Boulevard in Lake Balboa. The entrance is off, even though it's 7900, enter off of Stagg Street. It's right around the corner. You can park anywhere in the parking lot at 7900 Balboa Boulevard, and then you can just take a very small walk around the corner, or you can pull in right off of Stagg Street, and there's plenty of parking right in front of the museum.
What's the best place to eat around here?
The best place to eat around here, I would say El Indio's. It's a Mexican restaurant. It's like a walk-up window. It's been there for about 40 years, and that's where I used to go. I love that place. Five Guys. That's new. So I'm having fun with that one. The original Tommy's is about a 5-minute drive right off the 405 and Roscoe.
Near Budweiser.
Yeah, right near Budweiser. You can smell the hops and then have a burger.
Well,
Cool.
that's all we have. Thanks for doing this.
Yeah, thank you so much. We loved hanging around here.
Thank you.
Thank you.